So here's two ways that you can set up your OVR jump, right? We turn both ends on. Now these two sides need to be about 4 feet apart. For every additional side that you put, every long bar that you put, you want to put that short bar an additional 4 feet back to create a bigger zone. But so for one unit, you've got two basic ways that you can set this up. My favorite is to go front to back. So these are a little longer than 4 feet here, doesn't really matter. You can put them up to 30 feet back, you can create an enormous zone. But by doing it this way and having the athlete face forward, we're gonna make sure most athletes drift forwards or backwards when they jump. So I like to use this setup because it's basically going to ensure that your athlete takes off and comes down within the zone. And they're gonna have a pretty large range for them to move in that frontal plane. All right, the things that you wanna look out for when you set it up this way, a lot of athletes, their first inclination is gonna be to set up centered on the device. So you can see I'm pretty large, so when I set up with my feet about shoulder width, they have a tendency to go just outside of the zone. All right, with a single unit, the fix for that, it's really easy. If we're doing a vertical jump, we're taking off and landing both with 2 feet. So while this is only 18 inches long, we can effectively make that zone much larger by simply offsetting our body so that either our left foot or our right foot is centered along the devices, okay? So DJ's gonna come in, he's gonna show you how that looks. All right, he's got his right foot there centered, right toe lined up on the screen. Go ahead and give him a jump. All right, 32.6 inches. So you notice DJ doesn't travel a whole lot in any direction, but he is big, he is tall, he does have a wide base. His feet take off at the same time, they land at the same time. So by putting his right foot in, he's got a pretty big zone, much more than he would ever need, in order to account for any kind of variance between his jumps, all right? If he were to line up a little further back, show him what happens if you lined up centered and a little further back. So now that zone is shooting between his feet. Essentially, this is creating what we like to call a magic pizza slice, or at least I like to call it that. It's a testing zone that's kind of triangular in nature. So right now, even though from a distance it might look like he's centered on the device actually can't see him. If he was to move up a little, let's stand with our feet a little closer. There we go. So now he's real close, it picks him up. So if you're a shorter athlete, you might not have these problems at all. But a big guy like DJ, a wide base, he's got to be just a little more careful. So again, we simply just offset a little. Boom, easy, lines up. He's going to get a good read every single time. Now, step out. The other popular way to set these up, and depending on what kind of test you're doing, there might be a really good reason to set them up this way, or if your population or whatever your logistics are. But the other way would be side to side, right? So we're going to do the same thing, at least 4 feet in between, line up. Again, you saw how easy that was. I wasn't having to look up and manually line it up. I just basically threw it down in the general area, and it instantly caught. So now when your athlete steps in, it's going to be real easy to line that up. Every athlete is naturally going to orient themselves basically perfectly centered. They're going to be lined up instantly for the takeoff. The only problem with the side-to-side setup becomes that, again, most athletes, when they jump, they have a tendency to move forwards a little bit, right? So for some of your less coordinated athletes, they might jump fully out of the zone and land with their feet entirely in front. If they're a little more coordinated, they might land on their toes just outside, and then their heels fall back in, all right? So whether you land forward and kind of stumble backwards into the zone, or you come down on the front of your foot and then your heels come down after, that's gonna give you a sort of invalid score. It's gonna be artificially high. So to ensure that we don't get an artificially high score with these setups, there's a few things that you can do. Number one, you can take simple tape and outline what those visual guides are for your athlete if you jump in a consistent area. Or if you don't, you simply have to loosely coach your athletes, loosely observe them and watch them, and kind of police just a little that when they take off, they don't land way forward outside of the zone. So you can have them set up just a little bit further back. Now my toes are in the zone, and if I come down forwards, I'm still going to come down firmly within the zone, all right? Unless I have a wild out of control jump that takes me several feet forwards. But there's really no getting around that. So you're going to need just the slightest bit of coaching if you put it on the sides, or basically no coaching if you go front to back. So that's why I like to do that front to back setup, but DJ will show you. You can still get good reads with it on the side. There we go. So that's 30.6 inches. When he came down, he was dead center right through the middle of the devices. And when he took off, his toes were just a few inches back from where he ended up landing. So that's the two setups that you can use. Those are the two that are popular. Pick whichever one meets your needs.